I was standing in my office staring at spreadsheets marked in red ink when I realized my brother hadn't just stolen ones. 8 million from our company. He'd stolen it from our father's grave. Every fake invoice, every phantom vendor, was another shovel of dirt on Dad's legacy. My hands were shaking as I touched the old hard hat sitting on my shelf, the one Dad wore for 30 years on the factory floor. The evidence was spread across my desk like a crime scene. Apex Industrial Solutions, Midwest Supply Corp., Great Lakes Manufacturing Partners. 3 vendors that didn't exist. My daughter Emily had circled each one in red pen during what should have been a routine compliance audit. Dad, these addresses are P.O. boxes. Her voice echoed in my head. The payments go back 3 years. Marcus. My brother, my CFO, my partner for 25 years. He'd been stealing from us for 3 years, and I'd been too blind to see it. 6 shell companies, all registered in his name. 8 million flowing into his personal accounts, while I trusted him with every dollar that came through our doors. The nausea hit me in waves. This wasn't just theft. This was betrayal of everything we'd built, everything Dad believed in. Family loyalty, integrity, hard work. Marcus had taken those values and burned them for money. But the money was just the beginning of what I'd discover. What Marcus had really planned, the coup attempt, the industrial espionage, the complete destruction of everything our father created, that truth was still waiting for me in his emails. To understand how my brother could do this, you need to know who we were before the betrayal, before the theft, before I destroyed him. I'm David Brennan, 56 years old, CEO of Brennan Industrial Manufacturing. I'm the guy who walks the factory floor every morning at 6 with coffee in a battered thermos, the guy who can diagnose a machine problem just by listening to it run. Our 200 employees call me Mr. David, and I've known most of them for decades. I'm the responsible one, always have been. My father Robert founded this company 35 years ago in a rented warehouse with 3 employees and a dream. I grew up in that warehouse, learned to read blueprints before I learned algebra, spent every summer working alongside the crews. Dad groomed me for operations, sent me to State University for engineering. I came back with a degree in calloused hands, ready to build something that would last. Marcus, my younger brother, 4 years behind me, he took a different path. Business school, MBA. Dad called him the numbers guy, sent him to manage the finances while I handled production. When Dad died 5 years ago from a sudden heart attack, his will split the company 60-40. I got the majority and the COO position. Marcus kept his 40% and the CFO role. The will said, David will lead the company forward. There was no equivalent vote of confidence for Marcus. I didn't think about what that meant to him at the time. I've been divorced 16 years. My ex-wife Sarah wanted a different life than a factory town could offer, wanted a husband who came home before dark. I raised our kids, Emily and Connor, mostly on my own after she left. Emily's 28 now, a CPA at a good firm. Connor's 25, an engineer. I'm proud of them both, even if I wasn't always there for soccer games and school plays. Our mother Patricia is 79, widowed and living alone in the house where we grew up. I call her every Sunday at 9 a.m., never miss it. She loves both her sons equally, or at least she did. She used to say, family is everything, Davy. Everything. I believed her. Marcus and I were close as boys. I taught him to ride a bike, to fish, to throw a baseball. There's a photo somewhere of us at my wedding. Marcus was my best man, grinning in his rented tux. To my brother David, he toasted that night, the best partner a man could ask for. To partnership and family, the foundation of everything. I can still hear his voice saying those words, but something changed over the years. College pulled us in different directions. His MBA program filled his head with modernization theories and digital transformation. My engineering degree taught me that if something works, you don't fix it. Dad always said, if it ain't broke, don't break it. I believed him too. The partnership worked early on. David handled operations, Marcus managed the money. We complemented each other. But the last 5 years, something soured. Business disagreements became more frequent. Marcus would pitch ideas, cloud accounting, e-commerce expansion, automation, and I'd shoot them down. That's not how we do things, I'd say. Looking back, I see the bitterness building in his eyes every time I dismissed him. You never listened to me, he said once. I didn't think much of it. We stopped having family dinners about 3 years ago. Stopped talking about anything, Accept quarterly reports and vendor contracts. We became brothers who were coworkers who became strangers. My daughter Emily asked me 6 months ago, "Dad, when's the last time you and Uncle Marcus actually talked?" I couldn't remember. I noticed the warning signs. I just didn't see them for what they were. Marcus's increasingly expensive lifestyle, the new BMW, the country club membership, the twins' private school tuition. Jennifer, his wife, always dressed like she was going to a charity gala. I figured the CFO's salary was good, assumed he was managing his money well. That's what CFOs do, right? The closed-door phone calls. The defensive reactions when I asked about vendor relationships. The way he changed the subject whenever I mentioned reviewing the books myself. I trusted him. He was family. He was my brother. God help me, I trusted him completely. 3 weeks ago, my daughter Emily walked into my office for what should have been a routine compliance audit. Instead, she handed me proof that my brother was a thief. Emily came into my office that Tuesday morning looking nervous, carrying a folder like she was hoping she'd be wrong about something. The autumn light came through the blinds, and I remember thinking how normal everything felt. "Dad, I need you to look at something. And I really, really hope I'm wrong," she said quietly, spreading audit findings across my desk. 3 vendor names were circled in red ink: Apex Industrial Solutions, Midwest Supply Corp., Great Lakes Manufacturing Partners. I can't verify any of them. I barely looked up. "Your uncle handles vendor relationships, honey. There's probably just some paperwork missing." I was already reaching for my phone, ready to call Marcus and clear this up. Simple misunderstanding. Had to be. "Dad, please." Emily's voice cracked slightly as she slid bank statements in front of me. "These addresses are P.O. boxes. The payment history goes back 3 years. To 240,000 to Apex alone." Her hand was shaking as she pointed to the numbers. My daughter, the CPA, the one who double-checks everything, was shaking. I looked at the spreadsheets. Really looked. The red circles suddenly seemed like bloodstains. P.O. Box 447 Dover, Delaware. P.O. Box 892 Wilmington, Delaware. Not real businesses, not real addresses. Just boxes. Just nothing. "Let me see those bank statements," I said, my voice sounding distant, like it was coming from underwater. That evening I was on the floor of my den at midnight, surrounded by 3 years of financial records. Coffee had gone cold hours ago. I couldn't stop reading. Couldn't stop finding more irregularities. Every page Emily had flagged led to another question. Another impossible detail that pointed to the same conclusion I didn't want to reach. I called Raymond Torres, our family attorney, at 1 in the morning. "Ray, I need a forensic accountant. Confidential. It's about Marcus." The silence stretched long enough that I almost hung up. "Yeah," Raymond finally said, his voice heavy. "That kind of problem. I'll make some calls." I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't eat breakfast the next morning. I kept looking at an old photograph on my bookshelf. Marcus in a tuxedo, grinning at my wedding, glass raised in a toast. My best man, my brother, my partner. The photo seemed to mock me now. 1 week later, I sat in Raymond's conference room while forensic accountant Janet Chen walked me through her findings. She was methodical, professional, merciless in her precision. "Mr. Brennan, this is an accounting error," she said, sliding a 40-page report across the polished table. "This is systematic fraud. 6 shell companies, all registered to Marcus Brennan, all incorporated in Delaware." The money trail was clear: payments from Brennan Industrial to these phantom vendors, then transfers to accounts Marcus controlled. 1 and 8 million over 3 years. "How long has this been going on?" I asked, touching Dad's old hard hat which I'd brought without thinking. Janet flipped to a timeline. "First payment was March 2020, 6 months after your father's death." She said it clinically, like she was discussing quarterly earnings, instead of telling me my brother had waited for our father to die before he started stealing from his legacy. "He waited until Dad was gone," I said quietly. Marcus had looked our father in the eye at the funeral, had helped carry the casket, had stood beside me at the grave, and 6 months later he'd created the first fake vendor. Raymond put his hand on my shoulder. "David, we need to discuss your options. This is serious. Criminal fraud. Potentially." But I wasn't listening yet. I was thinking about Marcus's recent behavior. The board meetings where he'd been unusually confident. The comments about new directions and leadership vision. I stood up abruptly. "I need to check something." That night I sat in my office long after everyone had gone home, the building silent except for the hum of the HVAC system. I had IT access to the company's server, my right as COO. I pulled up Marcus's email archive, feeling like I was violating something sacred, even as I knew I had every right to look. The first email I found was dated 2 weeks ago. Subject line: Leadership Restructuring Proposal, addressed to 3 of our 5 board members. As we look to the future of Brennan Industrial, we must acknowledge that the current leadership structure may not serve our best interests moving forward. David's resistance to modernization and digital transformation has become a significant obstacle to growth. The board should seriously consider new executive leadership, someone with vision for where manufacturing is headed, not where it's been. Someone with vision. He meant himself. He was lobbying the board to push me out. I scrolled through more emails. Responses from 2 board members, cautiously interested, asking for more details. Marcus's timeline forced the restructuring vote by Q4. Install himself as CEO, remove me entirely. The betrayal wasn't just the money. He wanted everything. My job, Dad's company, the legacy I'd spent 30 years building. I sat back in my chair, staring at the screen. The shock I'd felt when Emily showed me those spreadsheets was gone now. In its place was something colder, harder, more focused. I picked up my phone and called Raymond. Set up a meeting for tomorrow. I need to know every legal option I have. All of them. My voice was steady now. Calm. He wanted to take everything from me. I'm going to make sure he leaves with nothing. But even then, I didn't know the full scope of what Marcus had planned. The industrial espionage. The competitor deals. That discovery was still waiting for me. Raymond's conference room felt like a war room the next morning. He'd laid out 3 options on the table like weapons, each with its own consequences. Criminal prosecution: Marcus goes to jail, but so does your family's reputation. Media circus. Company dragged through the mud. Every employee wondering if their job is safe, he said, tapping the first folder. He moved to the second. Civil lawsuit. Lengthy, public, expensive. Discovery process means everything becomes part of the court record. Competitors will feast on the details. His hand rested on the third folder, or forced buyout. Marcus sells his 40% stake at a penalty, signs an NDA, leaves quietly. No criminal charges. Company reputation intact. I thought about my mother Patricia. About Emily. About Marcus's twin daughters who'd lose their father to prison. About 200 employees who depended on Brennan Industrial's stability. What would Dad do? I asked. Raymond leaned back. Your father. He'd handle it in-house. Keep it quiet. Protect the company. But David, your father, would never forgive him. Never let him back in. You understand that, right? Then that's what I'll do, I said. Forced buyout. He exits with a financial penalty, signs away his rights, disappears from the company. I met Raymond's eyes. But Raymond, whatever he builds next, whatever business he starts, whatever venture he tries, I'm burning it down. He doesn't get to steal from my father's legacy and then go build his own. Raymond was quiet for a long moment. You can destroy him legally or economically, but you can't do both and keep your soul. Choose your battlefield carefully. I chose both. I just didn't tell Raymond that yet. That night I went deeper into Marcus's emails. What I found made the embezzlement look almost forgivable by comparison. There were messages to 3 competing manufacturing firms: Titan Industrial, Precision Manufacturing Group, Advanced Metalworks, all sent within the last 6 months. The email to Titan was dated 3 months ago. Brennan Industrial is stagnating under current leadership. I can bring an established client base, operational insights, and a deep understanding of the regional market. With proper vision and modernization, there's significant growth potential. I'm exploring opportunities where my expertise would be valued and where I could implement the digital transformation Brennan has resisted. He was selling us out. Not just stealing money, he was planning to take our clients, our trade secrets, our competitive advantages to our rivals. This wasn't fraud anymore. This was industrial espionage. This was Marcus willing to destroy everything Dad built just to prove he was smarter than me. I called Raymond at 11 p.m., my voice shaking with rage I could barely control. He was going to sell us out. Take our clients to competitors. I've got the emails. Raymond's voice was quiet. That changes everything. That's not just embezzlement. That's intentional sabotage. Corporate espionage. I interrupted. Just make sure the forced buyout agreement is airtight. I want him gone. Sunday dinner at Mom's house was torture. She'd made pot roast, Dad's favorite, like she did every week. Patricia sat at the head of the table, her hands shaking slightly as she served the food. She was frailer than I had realized, or maybe I just hadn't wanted to see it. Davy, you and Marcus barely speak anymore. Life's too short for whatever this distance is between you boys. Your father would hate seeing you like this. I pushed food around my plate, unable to eat. Mom, please. Not today, she insisted, reaching across to pat my hand. Family is everything. Whatever it is, you can fix it. You're brothers. You'll always be brothers. I looked at her weathered face, at the hope in her eyes, and knew what was coming would break her heart. Not this time, Mom, I said quietly. The next day I did something I should have done years ago. I went down to the company archive room and pulled out the old proposal files, found Marcus's comprehensive modernization plan from 3 years ago, the one I dismissed in a 10-minute meeting. I read through it carefully this time. Cloud-based accounting systems that would reduce overhead by 15 to 20%. E-commerce platform to reach new markets. Gradual automation of repetitive processes. Integration of real-time inventory management. Everything was detailed, researched, justified with data. These were good ideas. Genuinely good ideas that would have positioned Brennan Industrial for the future. And I'd shot them down without real consideration. I sat there in the dusty archive room, holding my brother's proposal, and felt something I didn't want to feel. Guilt. He was right. I said aloud to the empty room, not about stealing, never about that. But he was right that I never listened. The moral clarity I'd felt when I discovered the fraud was getting muddier. Marcus had committed crimes. He'd betrayed Dad's trust and mine. He'd stolen Warner's $8 million. Nothing justified that. But I'd also dismissed him, disrespected his expertise. Treated him like he was less important than me for years. Being right about business didn't justify betrayal. But being betrayed didn't erase my own failures as a brother and a partner. I put the proposal back in its folder and made a decision. I'd force Marcus out. I'd protect Dad's company. But maybe I'd implement some of these ideas. Without his name on them. Without giving him credit. Because I still couldn't forgive what he'd done, even if I understood it better now. Over the next 48 hours I met privately with each of our board members. I showed them the forensic audit, Marcus's emails to competitors, the pattern of systematic fraud that had been happening under their noses. Their reactions ranged from shock to anger to embarrassment. Jesus, David. Marcus. Your own brother. One of them said, his face pale. He stopped being my brother when he started stealing from Dad's legacy, I said. The words felt true when I said them, even if some part of me wasn't sure I believed them yet. Each board member gave me their vote. Unanimously, I had everything I needed now. The evidence, the board's support, the legal strategy. Marcus was isolated and he didn't even know it yet. In 1 week at the company's 35th anniversary celebration, he'd give a speech about legacy and vision, thinking his coup was progressing perfectly. And then, 7 days later, I'd destroy him. The company's 35th anniversary celebration fell exactly 1 week before the board meeting I'd scheduled. The timing was perfect, almost poetic. The factory floor had been transformed, banners celebrating 3.5 decades of manufacturing excellence, tables laden with food, employees and their families filling the space where we normally built industrial components. Marcus stood at the makeshift podium, confident and charismatic in his expensive suit, working the crowd. He didn't know that in 7 days, this would all be over for him. I watched from the side, a glass of untouched champagne in my hand. My father, Robert Brennan, built this company on a simple principle. Marcus began, his voice carrying across the factory floor. Legacy isn't about standing still. It's about building on strong foundations with courage and vision. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Marcus talking about legacy while he'd been systematically robbing it. Talking about courage while hiding behind fake vendor accounts. Dade taught us that family and business are inseparable. That the bonds we build here, the trust we create, that's what sustains us through challenges. Trust. He was talking about trust. I took a sip of champagne just to have something to do with my hands. After the speech, Marcus found me in the hallway near the offices. We were alone for the first time in weeks. You look stressed, brother. Business keeping you up at night, he said, that easy smile on his face. I met his eyes and held them. Just thinking about Dad. What'd he think of us now? Of how we've run his company. Marcus said without hesitation he'd be proud. We've kept his legacy alive. Grown it, even. There was anticipation in his voice. He thought his coup was working, thought the board was coming around to his side. Have we? I asked, letting the question hang in the air. Marcus studied me for a moment, perhaps sensing something off in my tone. Some of us have. Some of us are ready to take this company where it needs to go, he said finally, an edge to his voice now. He walked away then, confident, shoulders straight. I watched him disappear back into the celebration. 7 days, I thought. In 7 days, you'll understand exactly what's coming. That night, I sat in my home office reviewing the 47-page forensic audit one more time. Every fake vendor, every shell company, every transfer. The presentation was ready. The board members were ready. The legal documents were prepared. Everything was in place. My phone rang at midnight. Emily. Dad, are you okay? Her voice was soft, worried. I'm fine, honey. She was quiet for a moment. Tomorrow's the board meeting. There's no going back after this. Once you do this, it's done. The family. I interrupted gently. I know what it costs. Emily continued. Mom called me tonight. She can sense something's wrong. She kept asking about you and Uncle Marcus. Dad, this is going to break her heart. I closed my eyes. It's already broken, Em. She just doesn't know it yet. Emily asked, Are you sure? Are you absolutely sure this is what you have to do? I looked at the forensic audit on my desk. At Dad's hard hat on the shelf. At the photo of Marcus at my wedding, back when we were still brothers in more than just blood. Yeah, honey, I'm sure. There's no going forward without it. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness for a long time. In 12 hours, Marcus's world would collapse. The betrayal would be exposed. The theft revealed. The coup attempt ended before it could begin. Justice would be served. So why did it feel like I was destroying more than just Marcus's career? The conference room was silent except for the hum of the projector. 9 a.m. exactly. Marcus sat across from me, casual and relaxed, probably thinking this was another routine board meeting. He had no idea what was coming. The 5 board members filed in, their faces carefully neutral. Raymond sat beside me, a thick folder in front of him. Thank you all for coming on short notice. I began, my voice steady and calm. We have a serious matter to address this morning. I clicked the first slide. Page 1 of the forensic audit. Marcus's name at the top. This is a comprehensive analysis of our vendor payments over the past 3 years. I watched Marcus's face as I advanced through the slides. Page 12 showed Apex Industrial Solutions, the company that didn't exist. Page 15 showed where the money went. Marcus's personal bank account. The deposits laid out in neat to 23,000 to 180,000, on and on. Marcus's expression shifted from confusion to recognition to panic in the span of 30 seconds. David, you don't understand. This is... I cut him off. I understand ones. 8 million. I advanced to the next slide. Shell companies incorporated in Delaware, all registered to Marcus Brennan. I understand 3 years of systematic fraud. I understand betrayal. One of the board members leaned forward. Marcus, is this true? His voice was quiet, almost gentle, like he was hoping for a reasonable explanation. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. The silence stretched. It's more complicated than... He tried. I clicked to the final set of slides. His emails to our competitors. Titan Industrial. Precision Manufacturing. Advanced Metalworks. Offering to bring our client list, our operational insights, our trade secrets. The board members' expressions hardened as they read. Raymond cleared his throat. The board has a fiduciary duty to act on evidence of fraud and corporate espionage. I recommend an immediate vote on Mr. Marcus Brennan's status as CFO and shareholder. His voice was professional, clinical. All in favor, I said, my eyes locked on Marcus, of requiring Mr. Brennan to sell his 40% stake at fair market value minus 30% penalty, or face criminal prosecution. 5 hands went up around the table. Unanimous. Marcus stared at the raised hands like he couldn't process what was happening. You planned this? He said, turning to me, his voice raw now, the polished CFO veneer cracking. You've known for weeks. You stood there at the anniversary party, you looked me in the eye, and you knew. I said quietly. I gave you every chance to confess. 2 hours later we sat in Raymond's office. Marcus, Jennifer, Raymond, and me. The buyout agreement was laid out on the desk. 40% of Brennan Industrial, worth $3 million at fair market value, being sold for $2.1 million. A $900,000 penalty for stealing $1.8 million. You're taking everything, Marcus said, his voice hollow now, defeated. You tried to take it first, I replied. This is mercy, Marcus. The alternative is criminal prosecution, prison time, your name in every business publication as a fraud and a thief. Jennifer was crying quietly in the corner chair. What about the twins' college? The tuition? Raymond slid the papers across the desk. The buyout is $1 million. More than fair given the alternative. Marcus signed. Each page, each line, the pen scratching across paper like it was tearing something. His resignation letter. The NDA, the release of all claims. When he was done, he slid his company badge and office keys across the desk. After Jennifer left, after Raymond excused himself, Marcus and I sat alone in the office. Brothers who weren't brothers anymore. Dad always loved you more, Marcus said suddenly, the words coming out broken, years of resentment finally surfacing. The operations guy. The real manufacturer. I was just the spreadsheet monkey. Every idea I brought you, every innovation, you dismissed it. You called it unnecessary risk. I built the financial systems that saved this company in '08 and '15 and '20. But you got the respect, you got the 60%. So yes, I took what I was owed. I let him finish. Let the words hang in the air between us. You were right about some things, I said finally. I didn't listen. I should have, but that didn't give you the right to rob Dad's legacy. Nothing gave you that right. Marcus shot back. This company was dying under your leadership. I asked. Then why steal? Why not fight me honestly? He stood up, grabbed his jacket. Because you never would have listened. You never did. You destroyed us both, David. I hope you know that. No, I said. You did that when you created the first fake vendor. He walked out. I heard his footsteps in the hallway fading. I sat there in Raymond's office, staring at the signed buyout agreement and felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just emptiness. I'd won. The company was protected. Justice was served. So why did it feel like I'd lost something I could never get back? 3 days after the board meeting, Emily called me at 6 a.m. Dad, you need to get to the hospital. It's Grandma. She had a stroke. I found Patricia in a hospital bed, half her face slack, her left hand trembling against the white sheets. Emily and Connor were already there. Mom's eyes found mine when I walked in, and I saw the question in them even before she tried to speak. Where's Marky? The words came out slurred, difficult. Her good hand reached toward me. I sat down beside the bed and took her hand. It felt so small, so fragile. He's not coming, Mom? Each word from her was an effort, pulled from somewhere deep and breaking. What happened to my boys? Emily touched my shoulder, but I shook my head. She needs to know the truth, eventually. But not today. Not while she was lying here because of the stress I'd caused. The doctors said it was minor, that she'd recover most function with therapy. But I knew better. This stroke had my fingerprints all over it. 6 months passed. Spring came. The company moved forward without Marcus. I bought out his 40%, became the sole owner. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like walking through an empty house where someone used to live. Then Emily walked into my office one April morning with her laptop. Dade, you need to see this. She turned the screen toward me. Marcus's LinkedIn profile. A new company logo. Brennan Industrial Solutions. Consulting services for manufacturing modernization. He was using the Brennan name. Our name. Dad's name. And he was targeting our clients. He's already reached out to 3 of our accounts. Offering modernization services, digital transformation consulting. Dad, he's trying to steal our business, Emily said. The cold fury I'd felt 6 months ago came rushing back. He thinks I'll let him rebuild. He's wrong. Emily asked, when does it end? Dad, you got him out of the company. You won. When does it end? I looked at Marcus's company website on her screen, his face in the About section, confident and professional. When he understands what he destroyed, I said. Over the next 4 months I made Marcus's new business impossible. Every client he approached I called personally. 30-year relationships mean something in manufacturing. I offered better rates, longer contracts, guaranteed service. I didn't badmouth Marcus directly, didn't have to. A quiet word here and there about financial irregularities, about reliability concerns, about why he left Brennan Industrial. The Whisper campaign did the work. I leveraged every connection I had. When Marcus applied for a business loan, I made sure the bank knew his history. When he tried to hire experienced staff, word got around that his new venture wasn't stable. Marcus's business struggled. Clients dropped away before he could land them. His 2 employees quit within 3 months. The bank denied his expansion loan. I watched it all from a distance, tracking his company's decline with the same methodical attention I'd used to build the case against him. Then one morning in August, an email notification appeared in my inbox. Marcus Brennan Industrial Solutions LLC had filed for Chapter 7 bankruptcy. Total business failure, liquidation, everything gone. I sat in my office, staring at the bankruptcy notice, and waited to feel something. Triumph, satisfaction, justice served. Instead, there was just a hollow ache in my chest. I reached up and touched Dad's old hard hat on the shelf. I won. Marcus was finished. He'd never rebuild. Never threaten the company again. Never use our father's name to profit from betrayal. But we'd both lost everything that mattered. I still walk the factory floor every morning at 6 with coffee in my battered thermos. The machines still hum the same way they did when Dad was alive. The employees still call me Mr. David. On the surface, nothing has changed. Brennan Industrial Manufacturing survived. Thrived even. But everything has changed. Mom recovered from her stroke mostly. She can walk again, talk clearly. But there's a distance between us now that wasn't there before. She knows what happened. Emily finally told her everything, and while she doesn't blame me exactly, she mourns what we lost. My boys, she said to me once, tears in her eyes. I lost both my boys. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that I was still here. But I understood what she meant. Emily still visits, still works her compliance audits, still calls me every Sunday. But sometimes I catch her looking at me with something like concern. Or maybe disappointment. She never says it, but I know she wonders if it was worth it, if destroying Marcus completely was necessary, or if I went too far. Connor keeps his distance. Always has, really, but more so now. He sends Christmas cards. That's about it. Marcus's twins, my nieces, I'll never see them again. They're 18 now, in college somewhere. I don't know where. Jennifer made sure of that. The company is doing well. Better than well. I implemented Marcus's modernization proposals, the cloud accounting, the e-commerce platform, the gradual automation, all of it. Everything he'd suggested 3 years ago that I'd dismissed, it's working. Efficiency is up 15%. We're reaching new markets. Dad's company is positioned for the future. I didn't put Marcus's name on any of it. That probably makes me petty. I can live with that. I stand in my office sometimes, looking at Dad's old blueprint on the wall, and wonder what he'd think. I saved his company, protected his legacy, punished the betrayal. Did everything a son should do to honor what his father built. But Dad always said family was everything. He never told me what to do when family becomes the enemy. When protecting the legacy means destroying the family. When doing the right thing feels so much like doing the wrong thing that you can't tell the difference anymore. Was I right to force Marcus out? Yes. He stole $8 million. He tried to sell our secrets to competitors. He attempted a coup. The evidence was undeniable. The betrayal was real. Do I regret it? I regret that it was necessary. I regret that my brother became someone who could do those things. I regret that I never listened when maybe listening could have prevented it all. But some betrayals are too deep to forgive. Some wounds don't heal. You can understand someone's pain and still not excuse their actions. You can acknowledge your own failures and still demand justice for theirs. The company will survive. It has survived. Dad's legacy lives on in these machines, in these employees, in the work we do every day. The family won't survive. It didn't survive. That's the price of justice. That's what revenge costs, even when it's necessary. Even when you're right. I protected what Dad built. But I destroyed what he valued most. That's something I'll carry for the rest of my life. If this story made you think about family, betrayal, or the cost of doing what's right, I'd really appreciate it if you'd hit the like button and subscribe to Family X Revenge. It helps me continue sharing these real family stories. Thanks for listening.